Chapter 5 Sancta Clara. Sister Angelica's knees stung as she piled into John O'Dea's limousine with the other 5 sisters and departed to St. Paul's Shrine on October 1st, 1946. Joining Angelica for the trip to Canton were Mother Claire, Mother Luca, Sister Veronica, the Novice Mistress, Sister Mary of the Cross, a transfer from another order, and Sister Joanne, a postulant. It had been a hard goodbye, especially for Mother Claire. The 73-year-old abbess left behind Mother Agnes, her dearest friend, whom she had met in the Vienna convent in 1921. During the drive, the abbess betrayed no emotion, holding her head high like a marble bust, for the benefit of the other sisters. Sister Angelica's new home bore no resemblance to her digs in southeast Canton. The 24-room O'Dea estate sat at 4200 Market Avenue North, situated on 15 lush acres in a tony section of town, surrounded by a small forest interrupted by manicured lawns. The Tudor-style O'Dea house, with its multiple fireplaces and rich paneling, seemed too swank for poor Clare nuns. Adjustments would be required. The premier objective was to build a temporary chapel in the large living room. The remainder of the mansion would be partitioned to create a refectory, infirmary, workrooms, and bedrooms. That first night, several beds were situated dormitory style, while sheets hung between them for privacy. To slip her bloated knees between the covers without irritation, Sister Angelica billowed the blankets and shimmied into a comfortable spot. Waking on the morning of October 2nd, Angelica threw back the sheets, hardly believing what she saw. Both knees were normal. The swelling had subsided, and the water was gone. And that convinced them that I had a vocation, Mother Angelica told me with astonishment. That convinced Mother Claire, and so I only waited 2 more months to make my profession. The rapid improvement of her knees was viewed by Angelica as a signal grace from God, an affirmation that she belonged in the order and in the Canton monastery. In the meantime, she was still in the midst of her canonical year, a period set aside to conform to the patterns of contemplative life. During the canonical year, a sister was allowed no communication whatsoever with family or friends. As the in-house chapel was not yet completed, Sister Angelica and the other nuns were driven to St. Peter's, where they attended Monsignor Habig's morning mass. Near the end of the service, a familiar cough seized Angelica's attention. I heard my mother, and knowing my mother, as she was very emotional, I didn't know what to do. Once again, Rita Rizzo's concern for May's emotional state forced all other thoughts aside. Released by the final blessing, the nuns processed single file out of the church, with Sister Angelica holding up the rear. In her peripheral vision, she could see an addled May standing near the confessionals. There was no guessing what May might do. Dying inside, but obedient to the rule, Angelica avoided her mother's eyes, staring forward instead, except for the open palm wave, and a shifting expression of sorrow on her face. May made no move as Rita passed. Later that afternoon, Mother Claire confessed that she and the other sisters were edified by Angelica's restraint at Mass. The incident confirmed the nuns' readiness for first vows. It did not, however, merit the nun any special treatment. During her first week at the O'Dea house, Sister Angelica ran her bathwater into one of the massive clawfoot tubs. As she went to turn off the spigot, the porcelain knob crumbled in her hand, slicing a gash between her middle and ring fingers. Mother Luca applied a bandage to stanch the bleeding, but the right hand swelled. With her first profession only months away, all Angelica could think about was her ring finger. Following the European tradition, wedding bands were worn on the right hand in the order. The next day, Mother Claire was furious at culpus, taken from the Latin word meaning faults. Culpus was the time set aside before meals on Mondays, when each sister confessed a fault before the entire community. The abbess would then prescribe a just penance. "Mother, I accuse myself of breaking a porcelain knob on the bathtub," Sister Angelica declared, kneeling on the floor of the refectory. "I know. We're only here a few weeks, and you're already breaking the place apart," Mother Clare shouted in a staccato German accent. When Sister Angelica returned to table, she matter-of-factly ate her food. A weepy, badly shaken postulant asked, "How can you eat a meal after that?" "I'm hungry," Angelica replied, shrugging. The tough knocks of childhood had given Sister Angelica advantages over her peers: a thick skin and the ability to hold firm in times of adversity. At the dedication ceremony in the O'Dea mansion on October 4th, Bishop James McFadden enthroned the Blessed Sacrament within the monstrance for adoration in the temporary chapel. The monastery would henceforth be known as Sancta Clara, in remembrance of Saint Clare. For all its grandiosity, the house was actually quite small. Once partitioned in half, the externs living on one side and the cloistered nuns on the other, it provided little refuge for a nun hoping to avoid sisters who were considered unpleasant. Sister Mary of the Cross, appropriately enough, was a tall, big-boned nun with wide cheekbones and beautiful blue eyes. As community librarian, she brandished an absolution that vexed Sister Angelica. An avid reader at the time, Angelica consumed several volumes of John of the Cross as well as the writings of Saint Teresa of Avila, Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection, Paul of the Cross, and others. She would repeatedly read these works at Sancta Clara, capturing them in her nearly photographic memory. Since books were due back in the library by week's end, the nun also learned to accelerate her reading time